For marathon bombing survivors Jessica Kensky and Patrick Downs, the 5 years since the attacks have come with many trials. The then newlyweds both lost a leg in the explosions, and 2 years later, Jessica's remaining leg had to be amputated. Both went through multiple surgeries, but the road to recovery got at least a little less bumpy when they met Jessica's new service dog, aptly named Rescue. Black Lab helps Jessica stand, fetch things, open doors. The couple also credits Rescue with helping with their emotional recovery. And he's now the star of a new kids' book Patrick and Jessica wrote together, focusing on recovery and reimagining Jessica as a young teenager, learning to get by with her new prosthetic legs. It's called Rescue and Jessica, a life-changing friendship. And it's illustrated by Scott Magoon, who ran the marathon in 2013 and is running again this year to raise money for Needs. That's the organization that trained Rescue and paired him with Patrick, Jessica, and most importantly, Rescue. It is great to see it. This dog doesn't like me, I can tell you right now. And what I decided to do, because it's clear he didn't, look what I brought for the dog. His favorite food.
You're going to try to win him over? What did he bring you?
Oh, yes, I knew that would work. How did that dog end up in your family, Jess?
Long story short, I was visited in the hospital by a representative from Needs and an ambassador dog named Currahy. Mm-hmm. And I learned how amazing service dogs were. And at the same time, I was learning that I was a new member of this disability community who could benefit from a service dog.
And we all know from reading things and from you were having a really tough go. This dog began to change things for you like that.
Instantly.
And explain that a little bit.
I mean, he just lightened every dark moment and gave us something happy and exciting to look forward to at a time that was marked by such tremendous loss of not just our limbs, but our plans and our future, our apartment, our happiness, our freedom. And so to have one really big, exciting thing come back into our life was really therapeutic, not just for us, but for our families.
You know, I mentioned to you the other day when you were on the radio with Marjorie Egan and me that you had been very candid about some of the troubles you guys were having during recovery. And the book ends, so we'll talk about you rescued me, Rescue, Jessica says, but the truth is that they had rescued each other. Well, you're included in that group. Talk about what the dog, I shouldn't say that, what Rescue did for both of you together.
He's been our distraction. Whenever things were down, we would go outside with him and watch him run and play. Or we'd cuddle with him on the couch. Or we'd just hear him make some kind of ridiculous noise and would immediately lighten the mood. If we ever argue with each other, which is rare, he gets in the middle of us and climbs onto one of our laps to say, like, hey, guys, cut it out.
To stop it?
Yeah.
That's great.
And you just can't keep going on at each other like that when you have that kind of love on your lap.
Can I have carrot, by the way?
Sure, yeah.
Just for a second,
it's plain,
thank you.
But
it's okay. You know, he's highly trained, I know, and we read all about him. Why don't you tell people when he was in the studio the day with you two, and you were distracted, what did he attempt to do, this highly trained dog?
Okay, so he knew that he's very smart. He knew I was busy talking, and I put him in a downstay, but Marjorie, I'm going to put it on Marjorie, she started petting Rescue, which to him was like, oh, I don't need to be in a downstay anymore.
And what did he do?
I think he ate someone's lunch.
Climbed up on the windowsill. Look at him. He looks guilty and ate lunch. You know, like much of America, and I mean this, I was ready to read your gritty, behind-the-scenes memoir about pain and recovery and all this sort of stuff. And lo and behold, it was not to be. I was going to pre-purchase it on Amazon. And then all of a sudden, this kid's book came out. Why a kid's book, Jess?
It was a very natural evolution for us. We found ourselves talking to kids in public a lot. When we didn't have our prosthetics yet, it was quite shocking, I think, for them to see people missing limbs. And even when we got our prosthetics and then had Rescue, it was a lot of new things that they were experiencing. And we found ourselves constantly explaining these things at the grocery store, in the elevator, in the parking lot. And we just decided we needed to do it on a bigger scale.
And you were saying, unlike a lot of adults who have no idea what to do, sometimes cross a line and sometimes don't, kids are incredibly direct from what you've said, yes?
They shoot from the hip with curiosity. And you just can't help but be charmed by it and want to engage them in the conversation.
Yo, I learned a term from you, too. What's an Easter egg, please? Either want to tell me what an Easter egg is? Well, I know what an Easter egg is, but what's an Easter egg in the context of this?
In the children's literary world,
exactly,
an Easter egg is kind of a hidden surprise in a book, and it can be in the language or the art. And we have thanks to our illustrator Scott Magoon, we have lots of great Easter eggs.
I can tell you what my favorite is. Can you put up a page? There's a picture of a little boy with glasses carrying a fire truck. Now that little kid, and that's your little brother in the book, correct?
Yeah.
Looks a lot like somebody I know fairly well. Who would that be?
That's my lovely husband.
That would be your lovely husband,
It's
Patrick.
a little weird, maybe to see him featured as my brother. Also, I need to say I have a sister. So she got written out of the book. But when we decided to make me appear younger as a tween, I couldn't be married. So there wasn't a great way to have me have a husband in the book.
Enter Patrick.
So enter Patrick. Scott Magoon came up with this great way to put Patrick's frames on a 4-year-old.
Would you could you read a page or two? We're going to show the illustration. The illustrations are great, too. He did a beautiful job. Read a little bit, if you would, Patrick.
Finally, the big day arrived. "It's nice to meet you, Rescue," said Jessica. "She looks so nice and so pretty," Rescue thought.
I mean, I wrote that line, obviously.
Rescue stood up very tall. He hoped she didn't notice his legs were trembling, but his wagging tail gave him away. Jessica smiled a big smile and laughed a big laugh for the first time in a long time. Jessica and Rescue stayed in the country for a few weeks, and Rescue showed her all the things he could do. "You're amazing," Jessica told Rescue. "You think I'm amazing," Rescue thought. "I think you're amazing." Now, when I do this live, I have a very special Rescue voice. Doesn't sound so great.
What do you call this? Let's hear the voice just for a second.
"She looks so nice and so pretty."
Okay, fine. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's enough of that,
Is
right?
this, I don't want to play shrink, but you're a psychologist, so I can do this for a second. Is this cathartic right in this thing? What was the thing? What was it?
Absolutely. It was fun to get into kids' heads and to get into Rescue's head, because we see him as having these thoughts and this personality, but to get to put that down on paper was fun. And also, it was using a different side of our brains. And I think I'm a nurse, Patrick's a psychologist. We tapped into our experiences in those fields. And by the way, we have very different styles. You know, the jokes are all mine. The serious parts are all his. The accurate parts are all mine. The creative liberties are all Patrick's.
You said the other day, you're sick of talking about the marathon, correct? I don't mean the marathon, but that day. I don't want to even you are. You can be honest. Yes?
It's more that I just don't think it deserves that much of our attention.
Fine. So, but can we talk for just a second about the loss that you both suffered? Do you feel sorry for yourselves? Do you feel sorry for yourself? Do you?
On some
How do you
days.
deal with that?
I sit with it. I share it with my friends. I share it with my husband. I share it with my family. And, sometimes it's just kind of a crummy day. Some of our friends call it an amputee day, where I miss my legs.
Do you? Do you have the same kind of thing or no?
I mean, there are days that I'm sad and depressed and in despair.
In the dressing room the other day?
The dressing room the other day? I don't recall.
You obviously blocked that out.
Yeah. But I don't know. There's so many people in this world who have suffered one thing or another, and we're alive. So sometimes if I'm having a bad day, I think to myself, well, I have the privilege of being depressed right now. That's a privilege and an opportunity that a lot of people don't have because their lives have been taken.
Yeah, the other day when you were talking about J.P. Norton, that wonderful exchange where he's making fun of your Cambridge Elite socks and you're making fun of him. I had the sister of Sean Collier sitting where you were last night, and Dick Donahue, everybody knows, shot in Watertown, the former Watertown police chief.
He was in Rescue
Spot. That's very funny.
That's right. It's so clear that, to me, as an outsider, that network of people who experienced what you guys did to different degrees, that's also a huge source of something special, is it not?
Absolutely. It's hard to describe. It just feels like a big, mismatched, dysfunctional family. But we love each other just like family does, and we support each other. So when one of us has something happy or exciting, I feel like we all do our best to be there and be supportive. And when someone has a setback or a hard time, I think just as equally we all try to be there and rally.
And you mentioned you were a nurse in your former life, and you're a nurse again in your current life, correct?
Yeah.
How's that going?
It's good. It's been interesting. I'm not working directly with patient care, so I missed that. But I'm back on the unit where I was the day before the bombing.
MGH,
yep.
Okay.
And I'm, thinking differently. I'm getting to be with my colleagues that have supported us in countless ways for the last nearly 5 years. And, Rescue is commuting to work with me now.
And what are you doing exactly? I know you're a psychologist. I know you're a doctor or whatever you are. But, what are you doing?
Sore subject.
I'm still trying to figure out what to do with my life.
You are really?
Yeah, I don't know. I was trained in a more traditional sense of doing therapy. I've loved this creative way to use the degree to think about children and how we promote their compassion and empathy.
If you have any leads,
yeah.
let us know.
I know a lot of people. Have your people call my people. And just one last thing. I hope I get this right. You hand cycled together.
Yes.
1 year.
Yes.
You ran another. This is since the bombing. You
Yes.
ran another year. You're hand cycling tomorrow. Is that right? Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Monday. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Whatever it is.
With our friends from Walter Reed, a bunch of wounded warriors come up. Just as they hosted us at Walter Reed, we get to host them in Boston on Patriots Day, so it's very special.
I, on the other hand, was one and done. Patrick told me that it was mostly going to be, he said the aggregate was downhill. And as I was pumping my arms as hard as I could, I'm thinking, what a liar. So one and done, but I'll be there to support Patrick and our illustrator, Scott McGunn.
By the way, I hope the book's not one and done, because I said the other day, and I mean, it's really great. It's really, really great. It's not just a bit about you guys, about people with disabilities, it's about dealing with whole piles of things that almost all of us have.
I have to say, the few local events we've had, I feel like we've struck a chord with people. That's the feeling I get at these local events.
So glad to hear it. Patrick, it's great to see you.
Thank you. Great to see you, Jim.
Thanks for having
and
us.
Rescue, Rescue.
You the dog.
I gave you a carrot. Nice to see
you did.
Thanks so much. The book again, and you will love it. Kid or Not, Rescue and Jessica, a life-changing friendship.